Snacking tomatoes are the ultimate staple in so many households. And whenever I head off to the grocery store, I feel like a kid in the candy store with all the tomato options out there. And the company that's driving tomato innovation and flavor forward is NatureSweet Tomatoes. We wanted to learn more, so we're bringing in their VP, Lori Castillo. Welcome to the Produce Moms. This is the podcast where I talk to various people who've made an impact on the fruit and vegetable community. There are so many stories to share that will change the way you look at fresh produce. This is such an amazing evolution of the show because the few times you've seen and encountered Lori on the podcast, it's been voice only. So for those of you that don't know, we now have a really amazing video component. So jump over to our YouTube channel where you can watch this in its entirety. We're also streaming highlights on our LinkedIn pages, so you can't miss it. We'll share some video snippets on Instagram, but you can watch this whole show on YouTube now too, which is amazing. But with that, Lori, say hello and introduce yourself to our audience for what, the second, third time?
I think it might be the third time. So, hi, Lori. Congratulations, by the way, on the growth and everything that you've done and actually helped within our, call it, ag community, because it's what we need, and you're just doing amazing things. So happy to be back. Still with NatureSweet. Still doing our global marketing and some of now our sales operations in Mexico, which is exciting as we continue to expand. And as you know, we were only with snacking tomatoes for the longest time, which is probably what people know us for, with the package and the yellow bottom, and really starting to leverage that platform and go into more produce of cucumbers and peppers and medium and large tomatoes, which is really exciting on our side to get into greenhouse veg.
From a grower's point of view, exactly what Lori said, folks. So these snacking tomatoes, the cherubs, the glories, the constellations, every single tomato that you love that NatureSweet grows, the comments, I'm sure I'm forgetting some. I mean, there's so many, and all of the adorable holiday packaging, it's the best. But so from an ag point of view, folks, everything that Lori just mentioned, the peppers, the larger like slicing size tomatoes, the cucumbers, those are things that grow in the same environment really well as these snacking tomatoes. So greenhouse grown. And NatureSweet is a greenhouse grower. We'll get into, I think we're going to touch on the, why that is such a sustainable way to grow. But really, like I said at the top of the show, Lori, what I think truly makes NatureSweet stand out is within your corporate mission and what your brand is all about. So remind folks what that mission is at NatureSweet.
We are really out to transform the lives of agricultural workers in North America. And what does that mean? It literally gets down to elevating an entire industry that is typically viewed or seen as, paid less, longer hours. And this entire idea of reaping what you sow, literally reaping what you sow in ag, isn't necessarily the truth with how associates or agricultural workers are treated. So we really stick by doing things the right way, like our campaign, not just tomatoes raised right, but doing things right for our stakeholders. And that leads to better industry wages, extensive leadership and training programs, health and safety training, those types of things that can sustainably help them, their families throughout the year, because it's greenhouse. We don't have migratory workers. And when you invest in that associate or their families and that community, that means they can be there as parents. They can be there as, citizens of their environment. So that's really what we're out to do. And not just with our own associates, but across all of North America. So Canada, US, and Mexico.
And just elevate the standard for the whole industry. And when we think about stakeholders, I also think this is an important thing to discuss before we get into a little bit of your personal background here, Lori. But I want to make sure that the folks who are connecting with us today, because so many of them are part of our Produce Mom community. These are household stakeholders. These are home kitchens. And I just want to emphasize to folks, I know from working with NatureSweet now for a handful of years, you're a very important stakeholder in this journey as well. So this is going to be a great show. We're going to learn more about Lori. She is a force in the industry, someone who's got so much respect, running truly one of the strongest brands in food, not just the strongest brand in the produce department. NatureSweet is one of the strongest brands in all of food and beverage. And with that comes a ton of responsibility. So there's plenty more to talk about with Lori Castillo of NatureSweet. Stick around. The Produce Challenge is a tool that we've been publishing at the Produce Moms since 2013. This tool is an incredible, easy way for you to discover more varieties of fruits and vegetables in the produce department. It is a proven tool and strategy to get us all to eat more fruits and vegetables in both volume and variety. When we started the tool in 2013, the goal was to encourage everyone to go into the produce department and try them all. Find your favorite, explore all the fruits and vegetables, and we are still proud to be doing this today. So make sure that you check out theproducemoms.com/challenge to view this month's produce challenge. Remember, it's never too late to start. This tool helps you eat more fruits and vegetables, a different fruit or vegetable every day. It's also a great tool for seasonality, and you can count on us at the Produce Moms for all of the tips that you need on how to select, store, and serve each of the produce items of the day in the Produce Challenge through our social media channels. Hope to see you taking the Produce Challenge soon. Lori, I want to dive in with a couple things. Our producer, Kristen, dug up some dirt on you, and we've got a few things that we're going to do. This is just kind of like our icebreaker segment, the get to know Lori, maybe a few things outside of what we've discussed in our previous episodes with you. So let's do a little true or false. One of your favorite sections of the produce department has always been tomatoes.
True.
Why?
I was one of those kids who literally would eat them like apples. And
Really?
I think just growing, we always had them. I mean,
Right.
in the kitchen, like we cooked a lot at home. We didn't go out to eat a whole lot. And so the quality of the food that you have and how you can use them raw, stewed, literally roasted, right?
I love to hear that. And then also, we're approximately the same age. I can remember grocery shopping with my parents as a little girl, and there was no such thing as a big, huge 10 to 20 foot section of tomatoes. It was, you had like the round slicing style tomato and maybe a grape tomato or a cherry tomato, but very rarely both. And look at the evolution that section of the produce department has today, and 100% NatureSweets behind that. Just that massive expansion. I mean, it is the leading snacking tomato in the world.
I'd like to say we decommoditized it. Yeah.
There you go. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. All right. So many people, when it comes to snacking tomatoes, grape and cherry tomatoes, they associate those with a season. How do you get folks thinking about NatureSweet tomatoes as a top of mind food item throughout the year?
In my previous world, I worked for a CPG company, and there was this idea of stages. Your zero moment of truth, your first moment, and your second moment. The zero moment is when something comes into your mind and you might write it on a grocery list. Your first moment of truth is when you go to the store and you actually see the product and decide, is it the right color? Do I really need it? Those types of things. And the second moment of truth is after you taste like the efficacy of the product. The key is getting in that ZMOT or zero moment of truth and then the first moment of truth. You nail those, second, it'll just come. And so we've really invested a lot digitally to start targeting all tomato buyers, not just this one kind of profile of a person, and focusing heavily on salads and snacking. Those are the top two usage occasions that, by the way, people do year round, not just, certain months out of the year. So the more we can communicate and message to all tomato buyers that we have the same quality, the same price year round, which you don't necessarily get from commodity or by the pound. I mean, that's the guarantee that we give our consumers. They just have to pick up the package and leave the rest to us. We'll test it for sweetness. We'll test it for firmness. We'll test it for, flavor. That's the promise that we give you when you buy it in that package, because you're not allowed to touch it or smell it or, do anything else you would, like with an onion or some kind of bulk item. So it's really a lot of, and it's a lot of fun messaging. I feel like, we've invested in to just make sure that we are where you're already shopping for salads and snacking.
Yeah, so that kind of brings me to the second point here. Like, how do you get the products to be, I mean, it's lack of a better term here, Lori, but like you're on the wave of consumer trends. Like you're always there, And I know that as a partner in the effort, the Produce Moms is often blessed to support these campaigns that you're doing, such as the recipe road trip that we did with the regional seasonal recipes. And that was actually a campaign that lived at point of sale within produce departments. And then, of course, you had your digital complement to it. But I mean, how to explain to folks how you know how to market your tomatoes. I mean, because it's like, okay, salad, snacking, got it. But how do you get people when they walk into the produce department in February and they're greeted with, Super Bowl everywhere, or big game, I guess I should say. How do you get NatureSweet top of mind for folks?
So if I take a step back and just think of the business model, we fulfill demand. We don't grow for pounds, right? So we start with the consumer in mind, which is very different than a lot of other companies out there, right? They go by yield. And so that's not our game. That's not our business. We literally will almost forecast a demand, and similar to consumer packaged goods. But with that, it's also thinking about what are the consistent things we know people come to expect, which is, the quality of the taste, reliability, food safety, sustainability, all of those things. And the more we can message that either through like the promotion you just mentioned about, we're one of the very few companies who actually invests in displays or floor items where we'll be on the tomato table, but we'll also be maybe in a rack or a tree rack by the salad, or we'll also be already in a corrugate kind of holder, right, where you're looking at the sliced carrots or sliced apples, because now we have our to go, which is washed and ready to eat. But being in the store, in the places where consumers are already going, is really really the way. I think the first way, but then the other part is just being fun. Like, some of the sayings like let us out, actual, not let us out. I think that our brand has built a way into consumers' hearts by, one, being delicious, right? But also just being fun and not, ag can get real heavy, not taking ourselves too seriously. And so with a lot of the promotions and a lot of the display messaging, I think that's how we're really communicating with our consumers.
I agree. And I also think things that really connect with folks when they're shopping, like even just the seasonal packaging that you do. The fall packaging, you have the winter packaging, you had a Dia de los Muertos package. Like these are just things where when you're walking in the produce department, it creates that pause. Like you look twice, you notice it. And that's kind of from my merchandising days. I know it's like if you can get someone to pause and look, you're halfway there to the path of purchase at that point, if not further. So it is amazing, all the different strategies that you see come into play as it relates to NatureSweet connecting with really every stakeholder, to your point, the whole supply chain. But I must emphasize the point you made on flavor. I think that's, the NatureSweet has debunked the myth that tomatoes only taste good out of, in the summer months or, early fall. Not true at all. Delicious tomatoes year round. Just look for the NatureSweet brand and those adorable packages. So Lori, we're gonna dive in now into our break the ice segment. We kicked off this show learning so much about NatureSweet. You talked great, you shared some great remarks about the mission, tomatoes raised right, and what that means. And we're certainly going to dive in and talk a little bit deeper about all of those promises to the associates at NatureSweet and the associates under the label program, of course. And you also mentioned this exciting expansion of different greenhouse items that are coming to market. So we definitely want to talk about that. But we have this fun segment, and I'm going to ask you a few questions and just answer from the heart. Okay. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. What's the best thing that happened to you this week?
I actually got to spend an entire weekend with my husband in the middle of football season. he's a head football coach, and we never do anything to celebrate his birthday. We actually took a quick trip, and that's never happened in all of our over 25 years of being together during the season.
They must have been on a bye week.
Yes. So was the entire district, which is the only reason it
I
actually
love
worked
it.
out for us.
Good,
Yeah.
good. And so is he a high school football coach?
He's an athletic director and a high school football coach. Yeah.
I did not know this, Lori. And you guys live in Texas. So it's not just like a high school football coach. It's a Texas high school football coach. And anyone knows that there's a difference. All right. So we got to give them a shout out. What's their team name?
Highlands High School here in San Antonio.
Highlands High School. All right. All right. Well, we are cheering for you here at the Produce Moms. Another little icebreaker for us. What personality trait do you value the most in a colleague? And I'm, of course, going to ask you the opposite. What do you dislike the most?
That I value most, I think, is honesty. And that goes across just from recognizing capacity, right? From recognizing deliverables and those types of things. I think goes hand in hand with dependability. So if I can trust you, I think that is the for me, even in friends, the biggest thing. And the hand in hand is clearly the opposite. Like, don't try to pull one over on me ever.
Right. Oh no, you're way too smart for that. You will catch it and goodbye.
Just be upfront. We'll be okay. We'll work through whatever comes our way.
That's right. That's right. I love it. And you know what? That trust and loyalty is a common theme when we ask this of folks. And I think it's I think it's beautiful to have that come out. It really is such a critical value in life. So all right, Lori, let's talk about some industry news headlines and get your response to these. Okay.
Awesome.
This is one, I am honest, like I'm glad I'm asking you this because I get angry when I see this topic in the headlines and this misinformation that's out there. All right, quote from the headlines. Should I store my tomatoes in the fridge? ?
I say no. We actually put that on our packages. Tomatoes are grown on the vine and, with sunlight and with natural ambiance. So will it hurt your tomato? I don't think so. We've always just kept ours on the counter. Plus, it's much more convenient when you want a snack, when you're looking right at it, when you're just walking by. I store mine on the counter. We also advise to store, or at least for sure, our snacking tomatoes on the counter. Now, I will say the to-go packaging, because I have to do the shameless plug, was specifically made. It's proprietary, so that if you do happen to store your lunchbox or something in the fridge when you are at school or at work or something, the packaging will actually keep the tomatoes very fresh. So that's like the one time I'd say it's okay. Otherwise, I'd leave them on the counter. They're much easier to just pick up and snack on as you're walking by.
I love that. See, and I think that it really changes the texture of them once you refrigerate them. And so that's why I'm very anti-refrigeration. Keep those babies on the countertop, folks. All right, here's another one. Now, before I ask you this one, let's clear up where NatureSweet has growing operations, if you don't mind. We've already set the tone. This is a greenhouse grower. I wholeheartedly believe that greenhouse grown tomatoes are the most flavorful. And to Lori's point, you've got that consistency in flavor and in price year round, which, I mean, how important is that right now?
Super important. So let me just kind of, I guess, level set where we are. So we have this vertically integrated platform, which is really important. Those two words are super critical because we are one of the few, if not the only within our industry anyway, that can actually tell you how and where and when that product was picked, packed, and shipped down to the row. And now we're even getting better down to the person. So if you ever buy one of our 10-ounce packages and you open it, you're going to see a beautiful face smiling right back at you that you can scan a QR code with, and it will tell you where it was from, how it was, like the date it was packed. I mean, it's incredible. And that's different, again, because not only is it greenhouse, but we're not migratory. So our associates stay with us. We've got over 5,000 plus associates, not including the joint venture that we recently made with Ganfor, but we've got 8 facilities across Mexico, Wilcox, Arizona, and with the JV, which is over, and I'm going off the top of my mind, 1,400 acres, which is huge. And we just recently added another 160 acres, right? So that is just, that's a lot of tomatoes. It's a lot of produce, greenhouse produce.
That's why you always see the NatureSweet tomatoes wherever you're shopping. They're usually there because they have such high volume. Okay, so knowing that, knowing where your growing operations are at, really helpful. Here's a headline. Can't wait to. This is from CBS News. 1 in 4 of all tomatoes on the planet are grown in the state of California. Thoughts?
I think so when we're talking tomatoes, big, small, beefs, Romas, processed, canned, snacking, right? Like that's interesting. And I think, a couple of thoughts on that. So if we're going for pound or yield, like I have zero evidence to argue that off the top of my head, because something tells me it's not snacking. It's not, for grown for flavor. These are probably pounds coming out that you'll see in salsas, or, that get repackaged or processed somewhere else. What I do know, this is actually facts, supported by IRI, is $1 in 3 on every snacking tomato is NatureSweet.
Wow.
We have the largest share, more than twice our number one competitor. Same with brand awareness, same with household penetration. From a branded snacking tomato, domination.
So right there's the stat where it's no longer an anecdotal statement by me. It's right there is the stat that defends it. That is amazing. All right, so here is the subtitle from that CBS News article, and I think that this will kind of open up the door for us to talk a little bit more about greenhouse. Okay, the subtitle here: 1 in 4 of all tomatoes on the planet are grown in the state of California. With temperatures increasing across the country, California tomato farmers are now experiencing significant loss in their crop yields.
If you think about the just global ag changes, right? Like not California specific. I mean, we've got rising CO2 levels, right? That kind of increase volatile weather patterns, which we recently saw with Florida, and that can take away from yield and quality. We've got labor inefficiencies because the conditions, I mean, as it gets warmer, that's not healthy, or that doesn't protect our agricultural workers. And if you just think about a lot of the, again, not trying to get too heavy, but like the pollutants that come in with some of the fertilizers and those types of things, I mean, it's getting harder and harder if you don't marry, I think, technology with ag. And that's the beauty of greenhouse, right? So not just reducing like wasted produce because it's all contained, and so you don't have random kind of animals that can come through. We lower the CO2 emissions. We don't need pesticides, right?
Yeah, it's a completely controlled environment. Like people don't realize that, but it's like you don't have to worry about rising temperatures. Yeah.
And on average 80% less water, because we can recycle a lot of what we water with, and then what we don't use, we can recycle that. And so I really do think in that way, NatureSweet is paving the way to tackle a lot of those challenges, but it's going to take an investment. And so if we think about the investments that are happening today, I go by coastal with California and Florida, but a lot of that, the investment is not necessarily in technology. It's kind of like using more or different types of pesticides and things. And it's like, I think we're really on the cusp of like a global change that's going to have to happen. We know a lot of our partners in Canada obviously use greenhouses, right? Because it's cold in the winter. But the idea that greenhouse is like Frankenfruit because it's scientific is not as scary. It's actually better for our planet. It's better for our associates. You can really bring forward the consumer and what the consumer wants with flavor. Ultimately is why we do what we do, right? To bring from seed to smile is what
100%. 100%. I love that. And Seed to Smile. I so believe in that. We actually have named our weekly newsletter that at the Produce Moms. So, yeah, if you're not a subscriber, please join us as a newsletter subscriber. Just write theproducemoms.com/subscribe. Every week we're putting out newsletters, and so often there's at least one amazing recipe or point of inspiration that features NatureSweet tomatoes. Often, if not weekly. So join us there. And we'll be right back, folks. We're going to take a small break. Stay with us at the Produce Moms podcast.
I love grocery shopping. You all know that. And there's nothing that brings a smile to my face like when I actually see a Produce Moms branded fruit or vegetable on the grocery store shelf. So today I want to remind you all that we actually have an Idaho potato line that's available at select Walmart stores nationwide. So look for the Produce Moms branded Easy Baker potatoes. They are individually wrapped, triple washed, ready to cook Idaho potatoes grown by our amazing brand partners at Wada Farms. Make sure that you look for them. You are going to love them. We have so many ideas, recipes, inspirations, even a field trip to the farm that's available on our website. All you have to do is scan the little QR code that's on your Produce Moms Easy Baker to experience it all. Thank you so much, and eat more potatoes.
Welcome back. This is the Produce Moms podcast. We have Lori Castillo of NatureSweet with us today. We've talked about so many amazing things, but we're going to actually talk about one of my favorite topics now, which is this empowerment of the workforce at NatureSweet. And any of you who have purchased a NatureSweet tomato, when you open up your box of cherubs or your glories and you see that associate sketch smiling back at you with the QR code, that is a very integrated program called Associates Under the Label. And it warms my heart, like I said in our opening remarks. So Lori, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about the Associates Under the Label program and just the general ethos and brand culture that this whole program is rooted in.
If I think about who we are as a company, the truest essence of NatureSweet is in the greenhouse, and it's not the tomato plants. It is the associates. It starts with having the right people in order to get the best products so that we can have the best brand, right? And then ultimately go out and create this demand for not just great tasting product, but the idea is that we're lifting the entire industry. So we want great product, but because it was done the right way for our associates and for the people growing it. And as I think back to 2018, when we first started putting associates under the label, it was a little bit of an idea. We can try it, test and learn it. And it quickly grew to consumers having this direct relationship with the brand. And what it has evolved to is really a strong consumer connection with the traceability advantage, because people want to know where their food comes from. And so when you open under the label and you scan this QR code, yes, you can see if it came from Zapotlan or what facility, Colima, where in Mexico, where anywhere, from the country that it came from. But what we have seen actually come through is the connection that consumers are now making directly with our associates. So when we started, it was like, thank you, NatureSweet, for highlighting your workers. And it is now completely gone to thank you, Guadalupe, for the time and quality that you put into packing. Or thank you, Jorge, for showing my son that, working on a truck can help bring tomatoes to the table. And so we get these awesome like compliments and just storytelling with consumers directly with the brand, that's like the secret sauce, right? Because now, yes, they want to know where their tomatoes came from or where their produce comes from, but to connect it to a person behind it, to go online and see their videos, to see that when they purchase NatureSweet, they help someone go to school, they help them buy a house, or they help their kids go to school. Like that is where the trust, right? So yes, it's safe, it tastes great, but now you know what? I'm doing something that's beyond just tomatoes. And that's the idea behind lifting this entire industry. It's our advantage, to be honest, with the customer and with the consumer that no one else can replicate.
Yeah, and it's a great example. Associates Under the Label is a great example of a brand doing its diligence to make sure that the shopper knows your dollar is a force for good here.
I mean, and you know this, you were recently B Corp certified. That's, on our way. And I'll tell you, Lori, because you've gone through the process, we submitted one in record timing. I'm going to toot our own horn here a little bit, but with as many points as levels of brands that consumers might know, like Patagonia or Tom's. And it was just jaw dropping for some of the people as we were submitting this to think, but you're doing this in agriculture. And we're like, mm-hmm, we are. Yes. We have doctors on site. Everyone has health insurance, right? We pay a livable or a transformable wage, and it can be done, which is awesome. Now we just need everybody to start to do that.
Well, and we had Jimmy Mack on the show, your counterpart in sales, VP sales for the brand, and he was on shortly after the shelter in place orders and was talking about NatureSweets' commitment to associates and doing things beyond what most employers were doing, like making sure that the family had board games to take home so that they could, enjoy time at home as a family and really going that extra mile to make those investments in your associates, mental health and well-being.
It makes a difference. We're always going to have some compliments and comments or, that come in. We are now trending like 300% more compliments that come in than complaints.
Wow. For a fresh food product, that's unheard of.
Yeah. And it's every month we look through these, and some of them are super heartwarming. Some of them you mentioned COVID, they just needed to feel like they could be heard. And so they would write in and thank an ag, thank a farmer, thank a truck driver. It's just really been incredible, the legs that this has picked up. And so now we're expanding. The other fun thing is, how do you get under a label? Well, you're crowdsourced by your peers. So it's an internal recognition to be kind of on the face and like a model. You're like a superstar, right? When you get to be under 800 million units that come out of one of our factories. But on the other side, just really connecting that traceability, that, again, because of the vertical integration, knowing and understanding that direct relationship with consumers, that's how you build a brand.
It's storytelling versus here's a fact sheet. It's so much more compelling. It feels so much more real. And then also, for those of you that have tuned in to Lori's previous episodes, this is all coming together now. Your previous episodes, we talked about EFI, we talked about fair trade in one. These are core values for empowering your workforce. And it's just, closing the loop here with this episode. It's amazing. So let's talk. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but I want to make sure that we talk about this incredible expansion at NatureSweet. So the tomatoes we all know and love and that we seek out, and those iconic, cute little packages that we reuse for arts and crafts and all sorts of things, it's expanding. You're doing more. It's not just tomatoes. Tell us what's coming and what's in market now and what we can expect.
So what we've established ourselves, I'd say successfully, as the number one brand in the $1.5 billion retail snacking tomato category, with the number one even fresh veg. And so what we're doing is actually taking that formula and applying it, because we positioned ourselves. We're going, our ACV is over 95%. And so we're going to all these places already from a logistics and from a consumer perspective. So let's achieve a similar level of that in the enormous greenhouse grown veg market opportunity. We've got medium and large tomatoes that are coming, cucumbers, mini cucumbers, right? Baby cucumbers, bell peppers, bulk package. The majority is bulk, but it's really looking at that successful and proven platform of quality and dependability that consumers and customers have learned to expect year round. And we're just transferring that knowledge over to a much wider variety of offerings that you can take home and, feed healthy snacks to our kids and good meals and all of that.
Lori, this has been a great episode. I love having you on this show. I love working with the NatureSweet brand at the Produce Moms. It's a cherished relationship by me and my entire team. I'm gonna send the mic back to you for closing remarks here soon. But before we do, just one other little fun fact question. I view you as an inspirational professional in this industry, a great leader, and I'd love for you to share just one word of wisdom or pass along the best advice you ever got for our listeners to keep in mind as they go about their day to day.
Thank you. And it's always a pleasure, Lori. You know that I enjoy working with you, your entire team. You guys are amazing, and everything that you guys have grown into to where you are today. I can't wait to see what the future holds. One thing that I really hold true, not just for myself and my team, but the brand, is to really be honest and know who you are, know what you stand for. And so the way we come off with that, with our traceability and storytelling, my hope is that it gets to consumers, right? And that we can actually transform the lives of over 10 million agricultural workers in North America by changing the category expectations. And that continues to be our kind of North Star. The decisions and the principles and all of our beliefs that go behind it is really, really what makes NatureSweet distinct in this industry, and is what's going to ideally, right, really put that trust and level of all of ag into the world.
I love that. Well, with that, folks, what an amazing episode it has been with Lori Castillo of NatureSweet, and so much on the horizon for this wonderful brand. And thanks again for being here.
Thank you. And I hope everyone out there looks forward to us being the single source solution for your greenhouse grown veg.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Produce Moms podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and any preferred podcast platform. Check out the Produce Moms on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Special thanks to everyone involved with the Produce Moms podcast, my amazing team. Stay tuned till next time.
Hey everybody, you asked, we listened. So I know that you all love our dog food recipes on theproducemoms.com. Together with our brand partners at Sage Fruit, we have actually published a dog food cookbook. So visit theproducemoms.com/ebook and you can download your free copy of the dog food cookbook presented by the Produce Moms and Sage Fruit.